and I'll fully introduce him in a minute. But for now, why don't we go around the room real quick, and if you could introduce yourself, tell us about your venture, and sort of maybe where you're at, what stage you're at. That would be great. Just to give John a bit of context. Is there anything else you want to know, John?
No, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Barry, why don't you take it away, because you're first on my screen.
Yeah, I see that.
Oh, and sorry, before you do that, Barry, I should just introduce the other Edge team members, because I'm unpracticed at this. My apology, Barry.
No worries.
We've got Simi. Simi, do you want to introduce yourself? You're muted. There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Simi. I'm the administrative specialist with Edge, and I'll be supporting just in the back end. Just quickly want to remind everyone we'll be recording the session. So please just say whatever you're comfortable with, because we'll post the recording on YouTube after, and you'll get the link just so you can refer back to the session. And also throughout this workshop, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll make sure that John and Lisa both get to see it and respond to your questions.
Awesome. And then we have Erica Tai.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, John. Nice to have you. I'm the marketing and events coordinator at Edge, but I do have my own business on the side. So I'm here to learn.
What type of business do you have?
So I have a film production company, but I'm also kind of in the early stages of another company related to film education.
Good.
Awesome. Okay, Barry, story back to you.
Okay, yeah, no worries. No worries. I'm the rookie here. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having us. I think this sounds like it's going to be a great event. I'm an Indigenous business person. I met Lisa years ago, actually, through one of your emails.
I remember, yeah.
Okay.
And we chatted a bit at that time, I remember. Yeah, back and forth a few times. Yeah.
It's been a while, yeah. So I'm still kicking around. So I have a couple of ventures. One is, and it's a long time, I have a staffing company in Ottawa that focuses on putting Indigenous people into the federal government. That was my my passion, and kind of puts bread on the table. Recent venture I got into was helping and assisting. I started out assisting Indigenous people, but it's kind of spread out into assisting them to break into markets through contacts that I know.
Awesome.
Yeah, so like, you know, you meet young people that come up with, you know, and nowadays the stuff they come up with is incredible. Some cyber technology and things like that. So I've helped them engage with companies like Metrolinx and stuff like that. And we kind of give them the moral support, I guess, and the business support to get them going. So that's kind of the passion where I'm at these days, kind of helping others grow through my business. So we kind of work together as partnerships. I handle the sales and that kind of side of it.
That's awesome, Barry.
Yeah.
Glad to hear about the progression.
Yeah, evolution, I call it.
Evolution, yes. Well, I mean, you're putting yourself in the category of serial entrepreneur there now. Good.
ADHD.
I think we're all suffering, or actually not suffering. We're all empowered that way. Chris, over to you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Chris, and I'm a high school teacher. And so my interest is really in e-learning and ed tech. And so right now, we just finished a wireframe for this e-learning platform that I'm trying to work on just to help teachers and students and parents collaborate. So just finished up the wires and just working on trying to get a prototype going. And so, yeah, that's basically where I'm at.
Awesome. Elizabeth. I'm
just
so
making notes to remember what to say. What's that?
I said, I'm so excited to have you on the call. Elizabeth just submitted her application to become an Edge member. So
yeah, I'm still an outlier. So who knows?
Oh, no, you're in. You're good.
My name's Elizabeth Plouffe, and I'm the founder of Spiro Careers Canada. We are focusing on solving the employment barriers for the autism community. So we're developing an online platform that connects the autism community to autism-specific trainings, coaches, and services. Currently doesn't exist. So we are a social impact and social innovation for-profit. Also have ADD like Barry. So I have another business, MCV Communications, which is communications and event planning and what have you. And I also have a not-for-profit called Socially ASD, which is focused on bringing together people on the spectrum to meet online first, but then transition into face-to-face, and also to provide more trainings and what have you. I think that's, did we have to put anything else? That's it.
That's awesome.
Good. Hey.
Give us a sense of who you are. Okay, Basil, over to you. Did I say that right? Sorry. Basil?
No, it's okay. It's close. Basil. So it's Basil Bullock. Hi, everyone. I am a financial planner and a tax accountant.
Mhm.
So I do planning and accounting and all.
Awesome.
So I do have a associate that helps me out as well. So, so we're growing and trying to help. And, you know, I just joined it because I saw you sent me the invite and I thought it would be nice to join.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you joined in. Zara, over to you.
Hi. So I've been an EDGE member since last year for Ecosystem Informatics Inc., which is basically in the clean technology area. We're producing hardware and software, like an integrated system in-house for air pollution monitoring, and in the long term hoping to expand to other monitoring like traffic patterns and things like that. I also joined EDGE this summer for a nonprofit organization I started called Social Venture Circuit, which is just providing more resources in a community for local social enterprises.
Awesome.
I'm also an accountant, so it's always nice to see another accountant on the call. And I help people just as clients on the side with that as well.
Awesome. Jen, over to you. Well, we're not hearing you, Jen. Not sure why. Nope.
All right.
Oh, there, now I see it.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
We'll work on this. You get more than a wave this way. So hi, everyone. I actually work at Sheridan College. I work in the Alumni and Advancement Department, and I'm here for two reasons, really. John, I know you're a Sheridan graduate, so I wanted to welcome you back to Sheridan, even virtually tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're proud to have you back. So thanks very much for taking the time this evening.
My pleasure.
Also, I work very closely with EDGE, so I really like to attend EDGE events just to really listen and observe and get to know the folks at EDGE and the programming that we offer. So really, I'm here to just absorb and listen in tonight. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. And Shannon.
Oh, Lisa, you're outing me. You're forcing me on here. You're making me say it. Oh, I know. So hi, everybody. My name is Shannon Zangari. I'm actually Lisa's neighbor for many, many years. And I've been throwing around for the past 4 years a business idea that she's just really encouraging me to move forward with. So this is why I'm here. I'm the founder of Good Humans. And I guess we have two focuses. We're not quite live yet. This is sort of my process into, I guess, bringing my business to the market. But we focus on, our focus is going to be focused on highlighting good human businesses, good human products, and good human stories. So it's the idea is to help people become more socially conscious consumers. And I guess with respect to the good human stories is to just maybe that's more of a media focus, but put out, you know, the stories that inspire the individual to make, you know, to make a difference in the world, to celebrate the local hero. So you can see that I'm struggling with my wording a little bit because this is super, super new for me. But really that's kind of where I'm at right now and the intention to move forward with.
And I was suggesting to Shannon she try out EDGE a little, so maybe
thanks.
come and join us to build her venture. So okay, well, I think that's everybody. So let's kick it over to John. John, why don't you? Well, let me first back up and say that I know John through a business that I run on the side, and like in addition to EDGE, and so John is a member of a CEO board that I work with and run with my partner, Scott McLean, who I think may be joining us a little bit later. So John is a serial entrepreneur. He's a Sheridan grad. He's had multiple successful ventures, and he's launching a consulting practice called 6 Up, which is to say that he's had 6 successful ventures. And maybe you could tell that story better than me, John. So I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you ever so much for having me. It's so nice to touch wings again with Sheridan. I had many great memories and good times at Sheridan. And it's fantastic. It's the first time I actually bought into education. A bit of a rebel, free spirit, liked to race motorcycles, liked horses, played competitive hockey. So I'm that type of individual. It doesn't make it right or wrong or any indifferent. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of who I am. When I think of entrepreneurs, great ones, the first one that comes to mind is Richard Branson. Admire him, quit school at 16. And I'm not anti-education, trust me. But he's an entrepreneurial junkie with over 100 businesses on the fly. So, a little bit more about me. I, coach competitive hockey for the GTHL AA hockey for 24 years. Coached in the OMHA a couple of years, AAA, played AAA, played high school hockey. After graduating from Sheridan, I went to York University and took strategic marketing, and I got some insights there. So when I graduated, I had 3 opportunities, none of which were entrepreneurial. I wanted to get into making some money and establishing myself in sales and marketing. That's what I graduated from. So I had 3 job opportunities. Ford, they had an accounting position open, and I passed that because I didn't major in accounting. I don't know what would happen there. I had an industrial supplier interested in me selling parts from everything from automotive to industrial supplies. And then this other company was called BIC, the pen lighter shaver people. And, I had a hard time wrapping my head around being a pen salesman. Somehow it wasn't sexy, it wasn't like selling Ferraris or something. So I took it on, and then when I got immersed into it, I found out, my selling skills were intact. I led the sales for 2.5 years in all areas, and they promoted me to national marketing manager with 25 reports. So, and part of the reason was I was always thinking of marketing ideas. We were big on premiums. Nowadays, you wouldn't be able to do what we did back then, like have TV show up, to buyers' homes and stuff like that. Can't repeat that one. That's on the down low, but that's what went on in business back in the 70s and early 80s. But in any event, got into marketing there, and found out that I really didn't like managing people. So that was a big thing for me. I found that although I got along very well with the sales and people with marketing minds, I just wasn't built for managing people. I didn't enjoy it. So I got hired off by an electronics company, became their national sales manager, and then ended up at GE Capital for 10 years. And that was finance. That was, basically funding of capital equipment, fleets, vehicle fleets, and the like, and did exceptionally well there. So what happened is GE has started the bridge, and we all probably, there's probably a few of you out there that have done some bridging. In other words, getting capital to go towards your concept, idea, product, or service. And that's exactly what I did. And one of the big proponents was, I've got a wife that's very entrepreneurial. She has her own company, her own IT company with 15 employees now, and she's done very well and worked for Big Pharma. So she did some bridging herself. So, Up 6, the reason why I started it up was because I'm a junkie. New to me is exciting. Managing a process isn't. I've built two companies. I'm building my third now that'll be multi-million in sales. And you know, I'll get into more of the detail there, but I'm very, very good at the front end. I really don't like carrying on the managing of people and processes. And there's much better people there. I'm the guy at the front end with all the risk. And then, you know, once you get something running, you know, it's really not imperative for me to want to stick around. So I've never, ever not had two things on the go, in a sense. So my first break, and by the way, if anyone has any questions, please chime in. I'm not, I don't want to, you know.
We're going to let you talk for a little bit and then we'll interrupt you with questions.
Okay, just get the curtain to go over this.
Yeah, we'll just mute you out. You'll be fine.
So my first toe in the water was with a couple of musicians, and I put together a CD, 25,000 original music CDs for Reebok walking shoes, and help them foray into some theater productions. So that was totally different, totally abstract but I met these young men, and once again I got the charge and moved forward. The second was a packaging technology that took $400,000 in patents and 12 years of development. And we licensed it, the technology, because it was always improving. And then the licensor wanted to buy us out whole, which they did. So we sold off the intellectual property, and that worked out well for all of our shareholders and the principals of which, you know, I founded the company. So, and then I moved on to another company, which was in the fitness business. And I had a premier trainer. I've always been into fitness. My wife was an aerobics instructor for the city for 25 years. I've always been a gym rat to some extent. And he showed up in my garage with these bars, rebar. We know what rebar is. They put it in concrete, and they were bent, and they were U-shaped, and they had 2 feet. And he was doing push-ups, pull-ups, and dips on them. And I thought, interesting. So we formed a relationship. And by the way, all these companies I'm talking about, they're always partnerships. I partnered up if it wasn't my concept, because the packaging technology one was mine. The music production one evolved. You know, I found the opportunity, but it was still 2 musicians that spearheaded things. You know, had built the product in essence. So I looked at this and I said, okay, let's give it a go. So we, you know, manufactured a limited amount here. We went to Can't Fit Pro, which is one of the biggest trade shows in the world, and then we launched from there and built we developed 4 new products that were good for home and commercial gyms, and we went global, and that was a very exciting time. So I sold it off to my business partner because, once again, I was moving into an organic supplement company, which is called Pure Life Science. So I'm in partnership with a MD who ran the emergency department in Oakville General Hospital for 15 years, and also is a biochemist. He studied lipid biochemistry. So we've got that product that's gaining a lot of steam, and we're doing some studies right now to enhance the sales. So that's kind of the companies that, there was one other, there was, I think I missed one, there was also, I got involved in the helium business distribution, and across Canada in an environmentally sound way. Won't go into too much detail there. It was a good business, but what it was, I don't know if you remember the canisters that used to have helium. You see them at Costco and they throw the canisters away. Well, I came up with I bought cylinders, aluminum cylinders, and had 10 distributors across Canada feeding into a card shop, which I won't identify. And things were going straight up, and the plug got pulled, unfortunately, with the advent of a new president.
Got it.
So that was my biggest burn in business ever, and it was a painful one. But I made everybody whole that invested. The tanks that they're releasing from me, they got ownership of that, so no one went underwater. I made sure of that. So
That's awesome.
so yeah, that's kind of, you know.
So John, can we talk a little bit about your current venture, the Pureform?
Omega, yeah, sure.
Pureform Omega, yeah. At Edge, I think I explained this to you, we're pretty focused on social impact businesses.
Okay.
So I want to talk a little bit about that business and the one product line that you have that you're developing around addressing the challenges of EB. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So the product is a patented formulation of seed oils. So you got flax, you got primrose, you got sunflower, and these oils are cold pressed, so no heat touches them. And they're in capsules that have a bubble of nitrogen, and the nitrogen prevents it from oxidizing. So any oils, there's also sunflower seed oil in there as well. These oils, the thing that kills an oil is heat, you know, temperature, sunlight, and oxygen. Those are the three killers. So basically, fish oil, they've proven that 60 to 70% of fish oil is rancid because it's not a stable oil. Our oil, there's a big misconception out there, like so many other things. They say that omega-6 is bad for you. Too much omega-6, and Health Canada will tell you that you get enough omega-6 in your system. And I stay in my lane typically, so I'm stepping out of my line to get a bit into science. Like I said, if Jeff was here, he could go deep with you, but I'm just going to give you an overview. So omega-6 is great for the cell membrane, and everything's got to do with the mitochondria that's in the cell and the cell membrane. They talk about cell health, but it's a cell membrane that allows oxygen to pass through. So what does that mean? If oxygen is passing through cells, you got healthy cells, healthy membranes. And if you don't, the cell dies, and we know what that leads to. So our product is a difficult one because you can't make claims. We've got an Iowa study that proves that it can improve cardiovascular by up to 30%. And we've got another study at a university on diabetic wounds where we healed 87% of wounds in conjunction with a hyperbaric encapsulating machine. So 87% is unheard of. So we got involved through Scott, your business partner, with the EB community. Now the EB community is called the butterfly disease. And these children, there's all varying degrees of it, but some children, and one that we work with very closely, has lost 3 limbs. She's an artist. She's a beautiful person. She's optimistic. When I'm having a hollow day, I just think of her because she's very inspirational. And her artwork's off the charts. But if you were to touch her skin, it would slough off. So there's all varying degrees. We got a child, a 2-year-old in Calgary that couldn't walk because of blisters on the feet. So we've provided free product, and we're doing a study now with the EB community and getting the feedback so that we can publish something so that we can go and get aggressive in the marketplace. And it's I want to say that I've never looked at everything through dollars and cents, and I think it's a big mistake. I think if that's what's motivating you, take another look. My successes, and they're varying degrees. Like I said, I got three out of 6. The other 3 were marginal, but none lost money. I never lost any money on any of them. I just knew it was time to exit. Like I told you, the card company, the retail card company, put me out of business. With the helium and that, and Tetris, they moved on, and I wasn't that engaged. So everything worked out well. And it doesn't mean if you lose money, you're not a good entrepreneur. Many entrepreneurs have lost money that are far better than I ever hope to be. So that's not what I'm trying to say there. But I'm also very calculated in my investment. So this is a feel good. The fitness company was a feel good. This is a feel good. It's worthy. It's a legacy. We're formulating another enhanced version of it. Once we get the studies in place, it will be a very robust company. And in the US, they deem it to be a food product. And here it's a natural health product. So there's no adverse effects unless you're allergic to flaxseed, for example.
Right. Okay.
So what we have is we got healthy skin. If you're to take it, your skin, hair, and nails will improve within 3 to 4 weeks. If you've got psoriasis, we've got many people on psoriasis and chronic psoriasis of the hands and legs. Jim Randall Weber is a friend of mine through TAB. His is cleared up 85% through use of the product. So, and it's kind of a wave now. We're kind of on a wave where people are looking at alternatives for healthy alternatives versus pharma.
Yeah. So Elizabeth's asking a question. Elizabeth, you can just unmute and ask your question if you want.
So my background, I'm actually a two-time Sheridan grad as well, and I did the medical office administration program. So when you start talking about this stuff, I get a little nerdy. But our family has a history of either contact dermatitis or eczema, usually like an allergy-induced eczema or what have you. So I'm intrigued to know if you've had any studies on whether it affects an allergic-based skin condition, and has there been any impact measured on mucosal membranes? So for things like IBS or anything like that.
I'm not going to get in that lane because, but I'll gladly after talk and set you up with Dr. Maths.
I'd love to.
Yeah, because one thing I learned in business: stay in your lane, and that way I'm confident when something comes out of my mouth that it's 100%.
No, color me intrigued. Like this is.
And we've had people that report different things: energy levels going up, skin, hair, and nails, obviously, cardiovascular going up. My cardiovascular went up 30%. It maxed out on this product. People talk about inflammation reduction because of the primrose oil. And this took 10 years to develop. This wasn't something just some chemist put together. This was 10 years of studying, and it was studied for diabetes, the inventor. And we licensed the technology from them, the patents. We got worldwide distribution rights on the product. Yeah. So it's exciting, and everybody, we were at a conference, and I'll leave you this on what it can do. We sell, our chain is, we don't go Amazon because we don't want to undermine, because I don't play both sides of the street. I refuse to. So I protect people that purchase. So we got chiropractors, naturopaths, MDs, anybody in the health practitioner business, is eligible to buy wholesale from us. And so we're at a chiropractic convention. There's probably 500 chiros there, and we're in a room. And it was the second year that we were at this show, and many of them had taken on our product. So we asked, at the count of 3, Jeff was making the presentation, obviously, and he said, "Can you please yell out what the product does for you or your clients?" And about, almost 100 people stood up and they yelled out, and it was all different answers. So once again, there's a deficiency of omega-6 because it's processed, and processed omega-6 interferes with transportation of oxygen through the cell membranes. No one wants to talk about that. We got all these diseases going on, phenomenal amount of many, many diseases that no one's pointing to and saying it's food related. And many of them are spawned. I mean, Hippocrates, I think, said, "Let food be thine medicine," right? So I prescribe to his way of thinking. So, but yes, I'd be happy to, and let's connect for sure. I'll give you Jeff's information.
One thing that you said was really critical, which is that 10-year lead up. I think we all, I don't know about anybody else, but when it comes to development, I've been in development now for 2 years, give or take. And you forget, like you get to that stage where you're like, mother of Christ, like when is this gonna take? Like how much more is it gonna take?
Yeah.
for you to say 10 years in development, which you have to as well, especially if you're going to go through any kind of Health Canada check. I used to work for Haltech as well, so just a
Yeah,
I have a weird background.
this is not deemed a medical supplement. It's a natural health product, but the inventor was an engineer, MIT. So he went in, his wife had severe diabetes, and he's looking to help her out, and he formulated this product. And he spent years and years in the library, and he's a brilliant man. He's a brilliant guy.
But John, to Elizabeth's point, there's a number of people on this call who are, 1, 2, 3, 4 years into building their venture, and I think Elizabeth's pointing out something that I
freaking
think
tiring.
Everybody, it's exhausting, and sort of how do you carry it through, and what's been your experience in sort of pushing yourself and your partners through that?
Okay, good question. But I will regress. I didn't wait 10 years. We met him through a connection and licensed the product. So the product was already there for us to brand and get going. So yeah, but the on the packaging equipment, that was 10 to 12 years and lots of patents. And so what I did in all these cases, they were all self-funded to start with. So on the packaging machine, it was credit cards and money that I scratched together, and it was a 50-50 between my major partner, then we brought another partner. So how do you hold in? That's a good one, and it depends on the market. If it's changing, you got to assess, is this going to be as viable in 2 or 3 years as it is now? I like to I'll always assess in my mind, how long I expect it to take, and I'm never right. I failed every time. So, there was, businesses I put 150,000 into, and if you're to tell me from day one you're going to be 150 deep into it, would you still want to go forward? There'd be some choking going on, But
you'd be like, no freaking way.
Yeah, but it's an evolution, and like I say, my wife is so supportive. She's never said a negative thing. She's always been supportive of those efforts. So that made it 90% easier. And then the financial piece, I'll go through. Yeah, time is. I'll say one thing. There's no shortcuts. I've never found a business. You think Trivial Pursuit? I knew Chris Haney, the inventor of Trivial Pursuit, just as an example, made hundreds of millions of dollars. You think that he just came and developed a board game, and boom, it happened. No, that was 8 years in the making. No one talks about that. So, I mean, if you're looking for a shortcut, I know two. Okay, cocaine and prostitution. Okay.
My husband always says.
You can't say that.
Well, you can, but don't do that.
Well,
my husband always says you can have something good, fast, or cheap, and you can only pick two.
No, and that's correct. That's correct. If you're looking for a shortcut, I don't think it's in the cards for most entrepreneurs. I certainly have never experienced it ever.
Yeah.
It's years, 3-4 years of hard sledding, trade shows, money out, building the market, making sure that you're protecting your lines of distribution, finding the best way to do business and not blow a lot of money. I'm very effective but my nickname when I was a hockey player years ago was Johnny Action, and they abbreviated it to Jackson. So people that know me call me Jackson because I don't have a lot of patience. So I like to move fast on things. Every report card said John could do better if he only applied himself, but that was because I had disability in terms of, back then they said, what'd they call me?
ADD?
Yeah, it was even before that. They called it
hyperactivity.
Yeah, hyperactivity. That's it. Yeah, but I think once again getting back to that, and that's key and critical. how convicted are you to your idea? How big's the market? Is it worth the exchange? I'd put my toe in every time, every few months I'd evaluate. And then you'd feel down and you know, and there were times, you know, the wine went down quicker but I never had self-pity, and I just had to look at it and say, you know, are you gonna, and it always came down to stick-to-itiveness. And that's where budding with a partner, and I was usually, you know, you get two drunks, you know, they can walk a straight line because, you know, down the road, if they're shoulder to shoulder. Maybe a bad analogy, but I think that the support system, your belief system, I've known people have come this close, seriously, this close to success, and they threw in the towel.
Right. It's all about the mental game, it seems.
It's mental and stick-to-itiveness. If you believe you have something, you just got to find ways. And, you know, if money's going to help accelerate it, you got to look at that, and you got to get the money in place. If it's,
well, you bring up a very interesting topic for most of the folks on the call, I think, that access to capital piece.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, you've been, it seems, both sides of the fence, looking for the investment opportunity, but also perhaps taking investment.
Yeah, I've invested in a number of these companies, yeah. And for that,
what do you look for?
Yeah, well, for me, what I look for, if I was to engage in something, and Up 6 is part of that, I'm looking for a couple, 3 opportunities a year, maximum, because I've still got this company that once I got this formulation with Pure Life Science, and that takes off, then I'm going to have this in place to take on new ventures, because that turns my crank. So, you know, the things that I went through, self-financing during that bridge, we talked about the bridge, and so I funded things personally, took my paycheck, and I went from there over to the company and sat on the books as a loan, and that loan was paid back when the company became profitable.
Are any of you doing that right now? Do you mind me asking? Yeah. Okay. Keep going, John.
Also,
and Barry says the same. Yes. Yeah.
Bootstrapping.
And also line of credit, homeowners line of credit, credit cards. I've had 3 cards going at one time with one of my ventures, heavily maxed, but I made it work. And I never lost a lot of sleep because I felt that wasn't going to get me anywhere. And I know it's easy to say, like, was there stresses? Absolutely. But I wasn't about to admit defeat because of money. I just wasn't prepared, because I knew I could get my way out of it. And the way out of it would be, you know, through work, you know, through going back to corporate, because I did pretty good in that. Hated every minute of it, by the way, just to let you know. But I was GE's elephant hunter. I brought them the biggest deal that they ever had in Canada. So
John, did you ever bring investors in with you?
Yeah. That's in the partnerships. I was just going to move through this, the partnerships. So I always prefer an active onboard partner. I don't want money for the sake of money. So Dr. Jeff with this product, Pure Life Science, he can get right down to the mitochondrial level and talk out from there. He can talk about the oxygen flow. He can talk about all the scientific. This company could not exist without Dr. Jeff. Couldn't, you know, because he gets up and we get all our new customers, chiros and naturopaths, etc., from these conferences we go to where we got a speaking engagement. So, so it can be full time, but he also runs one of Canada's most successful pain management clinics. So I only need him 20 cents, but he's bridging to get over here full time because he sees the opportunity that his clinic, although exceptionally successful, this is where he'd rather be and travel the world presenting, because he's a traveler like myself. So then we get seed capital on two of my companies. I sold. What I did is, and I just made this stuff up. I said I don't want to take anything less than $10,000 because there's only so many. Back then, there were only so many people you could bring on board in the seed capital arena, and then you had the sophisticated investors at $150,000. And I don't know if that's changed or not. we did that for the technology company, the packaging company. And so we gave up equity. And what we did is we did not give up any control of the company. Everybody made money when we sold the IP. But what happened was it becomes a part-time job keeping investors up to date and everything else. And I'm a great communicator, so that wasn't a problem, but it takes on its own life. And, you know, once again, their expectations on timelines vary. So we gave up 22% of our company and raised millions on that. And then you have the angels. If someone could point me to one, I'd be happy to talk to them. Haven't found an angel. I hear they're out there. I hear people. I don't know if it's a rich next door neighbor that they drink beer and flip hot dogs and burgers on the weekends. So I've had no luck there. Venture capitalists, wasted a lot of time with them. They will tell you to your face, you've got nothing. You've got every venture capitalist. I went to about 3 of them because just didn't work out. You've got nothing, you know, come back when you've got something. I think to myself, well, when I got something, I don't need you, you know, be a lineup, I can get bank financing. So then there's, you know, we also leaned on the government for our technology, IRAP.
Okay.
It was a good program for us. They funded some of the research and development. And the last one that I had experience with, banks were not there. They'll give you the umbrella when the sun's shining, but if it starts to rain, they'll pull it from your hands. So I'm not a big believer in bank financing, unless you're that, you know, you've got 10 years experience and you're multi-million, you've got a foundation. But I've never worked in to that length of building. So, and billionaires, I've met 3 of them, and do not waste your time. Do not waste your time. It was an hour and a half on average. They talked 1 hour, 25 minutes, and you had a 5-minute window. I found it, quite frankly, to be worse than a venture capitalist.
So when it comes to all the different things that you've tried to raise money, John, you know, biggest challenge or
I just made it work. I just, you know, and sometimes I'd look and I say, we don't need $1 million. We're not there. I do not need that. If I had that money, what would I do with it? I don't need it. But it was always in preparation to have something in the wings. So I always had, you know, when I sold the fitness company, that gave me capital. When I sold the technology company, that gave me capital.
So
when
the
I
first one that was
sales,
really
bridging, I was making good money, so I could get that over. I had a great, you know, line of credit, homeowners line of credit. So things, you know, I had a great credit card. RBC helped me. Without them, I would have never made it out of the chute. They extended me back in the day. You know, back then it was, I think, 60,000 on a credit card just because of my previous corporate activity. But nowadays that's even more difficult. I understand. So.
Question on the bank.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
The borrowings that you're talking about, RBC, was that as a personal relationship or business?
Oh no, it was because I had their card for 10 years, and when I wanted to go from 30,000 to 60,000, this is going back to the 80s, so I'm dating myself. But yeah, I'm 66, by the way. So
things are a little different, I think.
Yeah, and times were different back then. But they granted me that extra line of credit, and I was able to manage that with some other cards, and that just worked out. And you know, money has never owned me. It's never.
You've got a few. Sorry, I interrupted you. You got a few guys on the call here. Like Chris, you're in the middle of developing yours. You've been going for some funding. Do you want to talk about the state of where you're at?
Yeah, I actually had a couple questions for John.
Sure.
Because obviously this is my first venture. And so one of the biggest problems is that every time I've always gone for, you know, government funding, especially, you know, whether it's IRAP or anything else, you have to have employees or you have to have 2 years of financials. And so as a startup, no, you're bootstrapping, you're doing everything on the cheap, and you don't have employees. And so how do you overcome that, that gap? Because that's one of the main things they ask for, is the 2 years of financials together with at least 2 employees.
Yes.
And how far are you into it, Chris?
Well, right now I've decided not to go the route of government funding. And so I'm just going to, like, for example, there was the Advantage fund. So I was able to get 5,000 from there.
Yeah.
And I'm just actually leveraging people that I know. So a lot of my advisors, you know, if I needed something as far as contracts, or, you know, I was able to ask them because we're friends. So they were able to do that on the side for me. But I'm keeping everything lean for sure right now. And as far as developers, I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. So in the tech, you have to have developers. Well, that costs money. To get money, you need funding. To get funding, you need to have a prototype. But to get a prototype, you need a developer. You know, it's like a vicious circle, and you're just doing this over and over. So I decided to, you know, basically try to get some co-op university students, you know, do things that way. I'm working together with Sheridan, with a few professors there, because, you know, I could, you know, put in a lot more money, like put a more, you know, do something with the mortgage, for example, but then I don't want to just throw money on, you know, without having that prototype and just wasting money. I want to do it smartly, right? And so that's the hardest thing right now, is definitely finding the funding, finding developers. Those are the 2 things that are the hardest for me.
And I never put my house up. My house was never in the equation for raising money, just to let you know.
It won't be for me.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm not that guy. So I don't think that's key and critical. So how much IP, intellectual property, in your development, is this pretty leading edge, or is it a Me Too type of product going out there, or is it?
It's basically leveraging.
Where are you? 2 out of 10, or 5 out of 10, or an 8 out of 10 of the way home?
It's basically like a 2 out of 10, in the sense that we're just leveraging the technology that's out there. It's not, you know, cutting edge, you know, AI, or, you know, quantum, you know, like, we're not doing any of that. No.
And that's a whole different bailiwick. So the time, one thing I can share, people invest in blue sky. Once you have something and you're making money, it's harder to get investors, because they're saying that then there's measurables, and then they'll start squeezing you. I've never presented anything. I've always been conservative in my projections, market projections, but it's always better to be blue sky and understand what market you're going after and how this could evolve. And that's where strategic alliances come in as well. You know, finding another person that can involve with anybody on this. I mean, I've heard some horror stories of universities trying to take a piece of the IP of certain things.
I think, I mean, for Sheridan, that's one of the reasons why I was sort of hesitating with Sheridan with some departments, because they give all the IP and moral rights to the student. And that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah, so I would backpedal out of that if you're not in too deep.
No. These are all things that I'm doing. Like, for example, research. So I have a class working with me to do some research on EdTech. So it's not direct. Well, they're still doing research. Like, you can never go wrong with research. So they're doing that for me. You know, just these little things. But as far as building, no, they're not going to be. They're not going to be building this. It's because I have to be careful with that, especially when it's written in stone that anything you do is shared. And, like, it's basically, it goes to the student. It doesn't matter if it's your idea. If they're working on it and they develop it, it's theirs, not the company. So it's something I've discussed with the Edge a few times, because I think that's really hampering innovation. And especially now, during COVID, like, you need to be creative, you need to be innovative, and you need to find new ways to get college students involved in projects, and universities as well. But, you know, I get why they're trying to give the IP to the student, but at the same time, you're being completely unfair to the innovators and to the startups and to the owners.
So, sorry, can I, just because I'm traveling a similar route, so there's 2 different ways to actually get funding from IRAP, and I've explored both of them and got funding out of one of them. But one for you, there is a student program available that they will fund, I think it's up to 60% of the student's wages. If you can find somebody who's relatively new out of college and has, you know, the basics to put together a wireframe. But the other question I have for you is, you said at the beginning that there wasn't anything particularly unique about what you were doing. Or did I hear that wrong?
No, it's just basically, you know, the technology is out there.
Right.
Right. The technology is out there, the code's out there. It's just that you're trying to take the code and use it in a different way, in a new way. So for example, if you're making a film, you know, there's so many different ways that you could actually use that technique. So when the Blair Witch came out, like that was a brand, like a supposedly brand new way. So, but did you create a new camera? No. Did you create a new way of filming? Yeah, it was just a different point of view, and it was different. So that's basically what I'm saying, is that, you know, the technology, the coding, the code's out there. It's just that it needs to be leveraged in a different way, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Application of it, you mean?
It's an application of it, exactly.
That's usually where IRAP and other government funding, what I've run into in the past 2 years anyway, is that if it's not a unique offering and it's something that can be built out of existing code or what have you, they don't view that as an innovation, and that's where they can hesitate in funding. The IRAP program, though, that will fund a student might be worth you taking a look at. I'll see if I can find the information. Do you have an IRAP advisor?
I did, but again, that's when you need to have the 2 employees.
No, you do
So
not.
that one, okay, because I talked to an IRAP consultant last year about this, and they were saying you need 2 employees.
No, that depends on the program that you're applying for. So we can chat offline.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, there's definitely more than one way to skin an IRAP, and that's not the only way. And it also depends on the advisor that you're at.
Right.
But yeah, there.
Can you guys exchange contact information, maybe in the chat?
Sure.
Elizabeth,
John, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think Elizabeth's right on the money. That's strong entrepreneurial statement, is there's different ways to skin things. Never take what experts tell you. They just don't do it. That was going to be one of my, I got 11 points that I wanted to share at the end. But one of them is, you know what, there's always a way. There's another avenue. There's a way to dress something up. And even for our technology, we had to present it in a certain light, to Elizabeth's point. So what she's saying is bang on in terms of you know, there is a way there, I believe.
You might need to strengthen your value proposition. And if you haven't worked on that, that could be one aspect. But there's also, are you incorporated?
Yes.
Okay.
So for profit.
That's one hurdle. Yeah, incorporated for profit. Okay.
Yeah.
And you might have to marry
Barry?
some as well, Chris. You might have to find a way to marry some other technology in there, so it's
Right.
mixing things. So I don't know. So anyways, yep.
Yeah, thank
Barry,
you.
did you have any thoughts or questions you wanted to ask?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm loving this, actually. Getting a lot out of it. I don't feel so much alone anymore, running around in circles. Chris, the only thing, and Lisa and I go back a long time about this, and I mentioned earlier, I'm on the Indigenous side, and there's a lot of issues that they're having, you know, in the Indigenous communities towards education. And there's a lot of funding available for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And I've wondered if you ever strategically partnered with anybody to kind of access that type of funding.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I've been to a few of, I guess, webinars specifically for Indigenous communities, you know, up north, and the digital divide, for example. And so I'm absolutely interested in that. And there was even a program for developers, Indigenous developers, but in order to get into that program, like, again, it came into the funding and the money, like it just became too problematic. So, but I'd love to talk to you about that. That'd be,
I think we might be able, I can't promise anything.
No.
But it sounds great what you're talking about, and I can see the passion, which is you're halfway there.
Barry, why don't you put your details in the chat so they...
I think I will, because you know, I've been around a while, and I know pretty much, you know, anybody that's on the Indigenous side and right across the country. And there's, like, as you said, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. And, you know, no is just, you know, for me, when I hear the word no, it's just I turn it around and I hear the on button, right? So, and from what I know is it just sounds like you need to find access to somebody to kind of put this over the top. in terms
Right.
of funding. And I think, you know, I tell everybody there's so much opportunity when you engage the Indigenous community. You know, we have, you'll hear, depends on who you hear. The political people say we never have enough funding. I always say there's a lot of funding. And unfortunately, some of it, the good funding, I would say, never gets used properly. And I think there's a lot to what you're talking about. So I'll put my contact info in here, and you and I can chat offline.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I encourage you to even just Google my name. You'll see that I get involved a lot, helping where I can. And because I think there may be something here that an introduction or two, and we probably, you know, first of all, Indigenous population or communities like to get involved.
Yep.
And they like to, you know, if you're okay with them kind of being partner, you probably take this a long way.
Keep in mind, if I may, keep in mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
That, and completely valuable. The challenge is, are you only ever going to serve the Indigenous population? Because on your initial run, you have to narrow your focus very specifically, because it cannot be a spaghetti shot and apply for Indigenous funding and what have you. So that's what my only thing would be.
Great.
Consider your target audience.
Yeah, great point, Elizabeth. Great point. But the good news is you know, the Indigenous population, it's a start, and then you can and then you can always expand it out, right? You know, I just
That's
recently
the beauty of education, right? Like I'm basically starting with a prototype specifically for math, because that affects a lot of people anywhere. It could be the Indigenous community, or it can be someone in Asia, it can be anywhere. So
I
just
like
starting.
I like that it's a crossover. We're not just, we may initially started focusing on once. Well, it's like any business. You focus on something to start with, and then you move forward. I like the fact that it can help all the community, all the, you know, it's not just, right.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And
you
know,
so Barry, you'll type your info in the chat.
Yeah, I will.
Right. John, can you speak to the issue of that these folks have raised around partnership and you know, pros and cons, challenges?
Yeah, sure. You know, dealing with entrepreneurs and inventors and the like for all my life, I've always, you know, been around them or worked with them or partnered with them. You know, there's some red flags that you want to be wary of in doing business with a partner. I mean, control is one issue. I would never give up control. You know, I would. That's key and critical to maintain control of your company. So when you bring on someone, unless they're infusing a lot of money, and that would give them more equity, but there's ways to work around that in terms of the voting structure. It becomes more of a financial structure, preferred shares, dividends, etc. But the thing is, you know, there's nothing better than a strong relationship and a partner that brings value, not only money. I would take value over money. And that might sound crazy, and we're all struggling for money, and I always struggle, but I will always take a partnership that has value, because then I can leverage that relationship to get money. You know, that's now that's a better wheelhouse for an investor to look at. You know, if I see one guy, you know, one person rather, that's struggling and they need an influx of cash, and that's all they need, or that's all they think they need, it's not always the case sometimes. I think that, you know, partnerships, I value partnerships. There's things I could have gone solo on, and I just could have had hired guns, but there's nothing stronger than, in my mind, a partnership. I would never go into a business solo outside of up six. But I might find a partner. But I've got a network of professionals that I'm kind of in a business with. I've got I'll tell you, I think I got the best lawyer. I got the best accountant, ex-CRA. I've got you know, not the best. I know we got some accountants here, but you know, I like a guy or a person that knows a little bit about those things, the way the government thinks. And, you know, my branding guy, I mean, they're all kind of partners. I look at my suppliers as partners in this venture. All of them bring something to the table, and they're all going to help me succeed or fail.
Paula, you joined the call late, but welcome. Do you want to fill John in a little bit about what you do, and then do you have any questions for him?
Yeah, sorry I was late. It took me a while to get
no
in,
worries.
and I was on a meeting late. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I run a handyman company out of the GTA, and
Awesome.
and I'm just excited to listen and learn from everybody else. And
Okay. I wanted to give you a chance to ask a question if you wanted.
yeah, I don't have any at this point yet.
Okay. So Chris, you said you had 2 questions, and I think we missed letting you ask your other one.
Yes, it's actually something that John was just going to talk about now about,
okay.
Bringing people on. And I was curious as to when you brought them on, as a startup, you're not sure where you're, what's the point of giving away 30% when the person could leave after a year or two? I mean, you're going to have vested, it's going to be vested, et cetera. But I guess it's finding the right partners, right? And then how much percentage are you going to be giving up? And then, there's one person that I'm talking to right now. So he's more in the financial world, but I don't personally need him right now. But if I give up, if I sign something with him just because of his connections, then that's, a few percentage points there. I guess it's hard determining how much equity you should be giving up at this point. And, if you give too much away, all of a sudden you don't have majority stake, and then they can just take it from under you. So
yeah,
I was interested to hear what you had to say about that.
Yeah, that's very valid. And that's a great question. Coaching, it's all about bench strength, and, playing sports all my life, it was all about teamwork. And so I thrive in that environment, but that's not to say you need a partner. It's like, there's also the option to have a hired gunslingers, that's always available to you, but then that requires money. So it's a juggling game. I've always succeeded. Like I said, pure life science, I couldn't do it with a medical doctor and a guy in biochemistry. The technology company, I came up with the idea, found the resources, 2 guys that could put that piece of equipment together, the packaging equipment together. So I found those people, then moved off of that and made sure everything. See, the thing is, when I bring on a partner, I make sure that it's equitable to that partner so they don't leave. Predicated, because they got to bring a lot of value to the table. And even if they're bridging, I'll accept that. Because I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I'm saying, no, I need you on full time. Plus, there's costs associated with that. So it's a bit of a balancing game, but it doesn't mean you have to have a partner. You can go and get the expertise and pay for that expertise depending on the situation. So there's nothing cut and dried in terms of finding financing, the way to get financing, partnerships. There's just so many different things that come into play. And that's your assessment. If you're greedy and you want to win and have someone lose, be careful. That's all I'm going to say. If you think that, winning over supplier and squeezing a price out of them, that's a good model, I'll tell you it's not. The best relationships, it's all about relationships, business. So if you got a business partner, there's got to be a lot of trust. They've got to bring a lot to value, and you might be total opposites in your thinking. But you want to maintain control. I went in 50-50 on more than one occasion. And that just muted, it's a stalemate. We'd have to go to arbitration if anything ever blew up. But maybe I've just been lucky. I hear some partnerships that it seems when they get really, really successful, the greedmeister comes out and things blow up and people end up in court. I'm not built that way, and I've been lucky not to have partners that weren't built that way. And maybe it's part of my intuition. Maybe I just got lucky. There's luck. There's luck involved in every business,
Quote Edna Mode, luck favors the prepared.
Yes.
If you ever watched The Incredibles. So have you had any experience, John, with drafting partnership agreements? Because that's what I'm in the process of doing right now, which, fingers crossed, is going to prevent the greedy muck, which is never going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got some experience. I try and keep them loose. I don't drill down and get too much minutia. I don't want a 22-page document. I'll live with a 3-page document, 2-page document. I do that with suppliers. I do it with NDAs. It's like a patent. If you got a patent with 800 pages, it's probably a weak patent, believe it or not, because you can't drive the stakes out. So less information on a patent, but making it 1 or 2 claims. If those claims are strong, you've locked up the market. So I think if it gets down to making legal profession lawyers rich and mulling something over that I'm a boilerplate guy, and as long as things are spelled out, and I do use my lawyer to go over things, but I always tell them, even in the sale of my company to my partner, I didn't want it to be, I just wanted to get it succinct.
I'm a getter done as well. I've done both my incorporations myself, and I'm drafting the partnership agreements myself. So I hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
But just wondering if you ever drafted one and you were like, oopsie, I should have considered X.
No, I stay in my lane, which is, like I said before, my lawyer, I would indicate to him what I'm looking for. The way, I want to keep my costs in alignment. But I also, I got a good guy, I got a good working relationship, and I'm getting excellent value out of that relationship because of the way it's handled. So.
But 6 ventures in, John, you're saying you've never had something where you look back and you think, I probably should have written that into the agreement or had that conversation before we started in, or,
Nope.
Should have handled that differently. Wow, you are one lucky guy.
Yeah.
Must have a horseshoe behind your ear.
Yeah, and other places too, I guess. Some people say that.
Well, I was being polite,
Yeah, but no, seriously, I've just never got into that. I'm all about relationships, and I'm not a kumbaya guy. Don't read me as a kumbaya guy, because when my back gets up, I'm ready to go to war for a point that I believe in, or if I feel something's been unjustly. I wouldn't say that a card was ever played out against me. I had one dispute that never went anywhere. Was, it was.
My mom always used to say she was afraid to piss me off.
Yeah.
I was terrified of my mom until the day she died, because quite frankly, she could do that hairy eyeball, but she always said, I would not want to get on your bad side.
Yeah.
Because when you've built something and you've put that effort in, and you have a very straight moral compass, I don't react well when people try and go the crooked path. It's never going to work that way. So I respect very much what you're saying right now, being as successful as you are. It's heartening to know that you can get there and not have your compass get tossed around a little bit.
Yeah.
You have decided to end partnerships before, though, John. What made you decide to get out?
Okay, I got out of my fitness company, doing exceptionally well, and right now the company's exploded due to COVID. It was a multi-million-dollar business. I would say that it's probably quadrupled under COVID because it's cost-effective workout training equipment, and people are opening up home gyms like never before because of the gym shuts down. So I'm very, very happy, because that's something I built basically off a napkin almost. Like, it wasn't my idea, but had to build it from the ground up. So I sold that because I was sitting in the office and Pure Life Science was taking off, starting to get some steam. And I said, do I want to sit here and make X number of dollars, and didn't feel my contribution level was there anymore, because I'm a front end guy, not a
Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, I couldn't strain myself. I was making good money, but just didn't feel right about the situation, and felt that it was a time to sell, because crazy enough, I could still be, I could be milking the company right now. I could still maintain 50% ownership, wouldn't feel right about it. I could have this company over there. I just didn't feel that my energy, what would happen if I had conflicts on trade shows? What would happen if I, then I got to be over China 3-4 times a year. What if that conflicts with this business? There was just so many things there that would have gotten in the way, and I could have pulled it off legally. I had 50% of that company till the day I die. Did I think it was right to my partner? No. So that's and I cut him a really good deal. So he's doing exceptionally well now. I'm doing well with this new company that, by the way, has, and I also measured exponentially which business could really, nutraceuticals, once I get the studies in place, there's no limit to the size of market that you can play in. So that, if you do things right, you're not sleeping with one eye open every night, and it's just work for me. And I'm a great communicator too. I think communication, don't hold back things, get it on the table, communicate. I got a girl that's very, very bright. She's a lot brighter than I am working with me. And the thing I've worked on the most is communication, and if you step in shit, let me know. Don't hide it. Don't kick it off on the curb and let it sit there. Let me know, because we can deal with that, so there's everybody's can make mistakes. Everybody can step in it. Don't punish, that's, that's the way, I think, the proper way to work with people and get results.
So John, let's say you have an idea for a product. I know Shannon on the call has had a few product ideas. You have an idea, you think it's got some legs. How do you go about testing that out?
Well, there's many ways of doing that. Build a prototype if it's a product, if it's a service, implement it small scale in a petri dish.
Yeah.
Shannon,
do you want to jump in and ask your question specifically? Are you there?
No, I'm just listening for now. Not ready though. Sorry.
Okay.
You are.
Keep going, John.
There's nothing wrong with baby steps and not spending a lot of money. See, I've seen entrepreneurs want that went out and got at least the top of the line BMW and got the plush carpets. And you know what? I've never seen any of those people survive. So I've always been, toe in the water, evaluate, test. With the fitness company, we took one piece of equipment, went to the world's largest trade show, set up a booth, real small booth, had it there. Some people laughed as they went by. Some trainers laughed at the product. Now it's one of the most recognized products in the fitness world. And the company was Liebert Fitness. Anyone wants to go to their website, they'll see the equalizer bars. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of those are being sold globally because they work, they're cost effective, etc. So I built unibodies, 300 of them went to the show. They're huge boxes that when I had to ship one, that everybody laughed because I couldn't get 6 of them in my truck at the time. But it was a proof of concept,
A minimum viable product.
Yeah. And we sold what we had and the feedback. I measured the feedback. Like I was gluing grips on these things. I was getting end caps. I was sending them off to the paint shop and watching them paint them and then put them going out and buying boxes and putting them in boxes. I mean, I was taping them. I was doing everything out of my garage, and even when we had the knockdown version out of Asia, I would have skid loads, I'd have 2,000 of them in my garage in the winter. And then I'd be hauling them over to the post office or driving them off to a gym. Like it was dirty, it was laborious. It was strenuous. I was on the phone at nighttime, at 4 a.m., 2 a.m. talking to China, the factory, keeping things maintained there. So there's no shortcuts. And did I love doing it? Not really. But I knew there would come a day when this, what I loved is when you saw your online sales start to shift, and then you get this big order and you think, geez, that $10,000 order, and you get the bell and you ding the bell, and then that becomes a regular occurrence, and then things go from there, and then you got distributors from Europe. I'll tell you a funny story, and it's in the list. I got a list of my top 11 shares, but I can remember being told from a finance accounting firm that don't go to Europe unless you have $5 million worth of sales. And I said, that doesn't sound right. So off to Europe, I set up distribution over there, and within a year and a half, it represented 30% of my sales. So, once again, do what you got to do. I was never above. I never felt taping up boxes and shipping product was beneath me. It had to be done. I couldn't afford someone to do it. So I went from high level meetings to a tape gun.
So I have a question then. So, take me back to your garage for a second. And at what point did it become this multi-million-dollar thing? I mean, there's probably some steps in there, but like eyeballs to your product, were you just going to trade show after trade show? Like, how did that happen where you ended up with these sales? Like, the marketing, did you pay marketing? Like, did you buy ads? Like, what were you doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, what I did is I never drew down much money. I was making, in the early years, I was making $20,000 a year. And that's what it was. That's what the company could afford, because I was spending, within 5 years, my marketing was somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 to build a global enterprise. Wow. So my marketing expense was on average about 18 to 20% of revenue. So I once I felt the production was there, I went through 5 factories in China until I found the right one.
And what did you do? Just go to China and how did you start that? That's always a hard one.
It's funny. I met I don't know, his name's Tommy Campanero. We befriended each other at trade shows. He's the guy that launched Total Gym. Mm-hmm. So I created a strategic alliance. So I see him at trade shows. I say, Tommy, come on, I'll buy you a beer. And we shoot the shit. And he tell me his stories, and I tell him my headaches. And he says, I got 2 companies for you to check out. Once again, caused myself a lot of grief by not creating that strategic alliance quicker than I did. So when I talk about strategic alliances, they're key and critical. I got a company to tool up, invest tens of thousands of dollars in their tooling, their paint shop, just for me. And we've done I'm sure we've done over 1 million sets of bars by now.
And your big breaking point was the strategic alliance you built with this guy.
For manufacturing, because we had a manufacturer. Here's one for you. Here's one for the notebook. We had a guy that was an agent that said, I can get, I bought a container, and the product coming out of this container was beautiful. The paint was beautiful. The labeling was great. Everything was wonderful. Second shipment comes in, it's nowhere near. It's 50% of the first one. And we had stability problems. So I had to get a warehouse, get 15 guys in there to open up every box, reassemble the product, see if it was stable, repackage, and away we went. And the warehouse was in Vermont. So, a real headache. And I says, what happened? He says, this isn't the same manufacturer. He says, no, I had to change, and that other guy went out of business. I says, I don't think so. Someone putting that type of quality out is not going out of business. The guy that's going out of business is the guy that's not going to get payment for the shipment, and that's you. So he had to make it right. He got the cost, and then I ended the relationship. Talked to Tommy at a trade show, and ever since the quality, because they were into spin bikes, this factory, the tolerances were so finite that, and they had a beautiful paint shop. So we ran all of our products through them.
So I think we've got time for maybe one more question. Anybody else?
I have a question. So between the different projects that I'm working on right now, I'm planning them both at the same time when it comes to marketing and sales strategy and setting growth expectations. Can you comment a little bit on your general experience between planning for higher value products versus just lower value? So let's say, selling a pen versus selling, you know, some of the other products you've worked on in terms of fitness. I'm just having a little bit of difficulty navigating that when I read through like frameworks and models on designing like something like a marketing funnel, because I'm not going to spend as much effort in a lot of aspects of that for something that I'm only going to sell, let's say, for $10 versus, you know, $10,000.
Great question. The funny thing is, I thought when I started off with Bic, you know, how could there be money in this? Well, the margins were astronomical. The opportunities, they put us into new cars every year. I was getting bonused out like crazy. I was making more than any of the graduates, you know, and I'm selling big pens and lighters. So it's depends on the scalability. My belief is that I've probably modeled every company in a very similar fashion in terms of advertising, marketing dollars, when to hit the accelerator, when to deaccelerate, when to all the critical thinking. Business is business, and if you've got $100 product, how do you scale that up? How big is the market? If you got a $1 product and you can sell 50 million, and you got $1,000 product that you're only going to sell 5,000, you know, which business do you want to be in? You know, it becomes a numbers game, and there's a couple of accountants here that would probably agree with that. I would hope. So yeah, I look at the fitness business. It was the packaging business was massive. We're talking McDonald's, every quick serve restaurant in the world. We're talking, you know, 40,000 restaurants was a market, and this could be plugged into every one of them. And we don't, you know, the average quick serve restaurant, I think at the time, was doing somewhere around 1,200 lids. Okay, the fitness business, it was everybody could potentially buy this product. So that was up to me to reach out and get it going, because we started aiming the guns at gyms, because we could sell, you know, 50, 25 sets into the gyms, build some volume, because that's what you want to get your costs down. And then, you know, the consumers were saying, hey, this would be good for my home gym, these products. So that's how that developed. And now, then I got strategic alliances with some of the best trainers in the world. Frank Medrano, if you Google him, he does things on parallel bars and on these equalizers that are beyond belief. So that got a lot of hype, and he's Southern Californian, so we went off him. Nike did a promotion on a wall in Toronto showing our product with Niedermeyer, who is a professional hockey player, well renowned, and he was doing his workouts on this product, and it was in a desert. Of all things, a hockey player in a desert, I don't know, kind of funky, but so I guess the point I'm making is, if it's a limited market and it's local, you can still scale up. I'm working with my sister that's developed a book. She's a healthcare expert in managing homes, managing families, because there's a disconnect there. So she's connecting it. She's got 20 years experience in that area. So she's doing well in Canada, but she can scale up. She could have kept that business just locally in Ontario, but most businesses can be scaled. They can be, I'm not big on franchises, so I would set up a distribution. You become a distributor of the company, you know, and here's a territory. So there's ways of scaling up businesses, and it depends on the product or the service. But if it's really a good idea and the world can use it, there's ways to scale anything from a pen to a Lamborghini. You know, so.
Yeah,
So
I
I
don't
hope,
know
I
if
hope
we've
that answers
quite,
kind
yeah.
of.
So I don't, yeah, did we answer your question, Zara?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps to have perspective on like some of the journey you've been through and examples you gave to kind of put what I'm going through into perspective. I think just doing both of those things at the same time because they're both in planning stages. And I look at these models, it gets a little confusing sometimes, but that was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, some models, I really believe, you've got your branding, your marketing. I've got 11 takeaways that maybe I could walk
Yeah,
through.
yeah, we're actually coming up to the final moments here, so yeah.
Why don't
you do that, John?
Yeah, these are the things that kind of frame, my look at how I view business, and some of it's quite obvious and self-explanatory and makes common sense, but sometimes we lose common sense because everybody tells you got to be fancy, you got to be sophisticated, you got to be this, you got to be that. Well, no, business is being, since Christ is being was a carpenter, business has always been the same in my mind, trade, sales. So anyways, I start off with treat suppliers as your business partners. Do not ignore them. Go to lunch and you push, because you never ask someone to go to lunch and expect them to pay. I was in the corporate world and that's what they would do to me, and that was just understood. So I talked to my vendors, all my vendors, my lawyers, my accountants, my branding guy, my advertising, my IT, all that. I'm regularly, constantly, because what will happen is they will support me over others because of the relationship I built. And if you don't think relationships are important, they're number one. That's a lifeline. Don't ever forget it. You treat them like a family member. And I can pick up the phone on any key critical area of my business. And even when I was in manufacturing with Libra Fitness, and I could get things done just because I never cried wolf, and they knew that I wasn't crying wolf when I said, can you help me out here? So pay them early if you can. That was, if once it got going, I would pay them before the 30 days were up. I gave an award to manufacturing. I said, you're the best. I had 2 manufacturers on the go, so I could legitimately give an award to one. And the owner of a big corporation, Taiwanese corporation, he loved that. He couldn't get over that he had an award, and he put it right in his office. And his office was quite swank, and he was one of the first guys to develop bicycles and the home bikes, the recumbents and that type of thing. The other point is, I'll move on, stick-to-itiveness. There's times when you feel you're in a very dark place. I've been there, you will be there. It's there. And anyone that says they've never been there, it's possible, but just everyone that I've been in contact with, there are those dark moments where you say, am I doing the right thing? I had to ask my wife, it's just, I felt like I was pushing rope some days, it just doesn't work. Work day by day and reach out to other business people. I used to have a buddy that I went to Sheridan College with. His name's Miles Robinson. He had a tremendously successful company that would sell in everything from Tic Tacs to Disney shampoos. He had licenses. He was tremendously successful in Mississauga. And I would go to him and say, geez, he'd say, how things going? And I'd say, well, I'm in a dark spot. And he'd just say, Johnny, you'll get there. So I leaned on him, leaned on my wife. I'm not, infallible. So I measure, and number 3, I measure each time you decide to move forward with additional financing. So no fancy cars or offices, put dollars towards commercialization. Give you a real quick example. A buddy of mine invested $150,000 into sports memorabilia. Remember when sports memorabilia was big?
Mm-hmm.
And he saw him at a dinner party 3 months later. And the individual he invested with said, did you see that game the other night, the Leaf game? And my friend said, no. He said, did you? He says, yeah, we're sitting in our corporate seats. And he said, corporate seats? He says, yeah, well, I bought four seasons tickets. Like, you buy them, it's just not season, it's season over season. That company was dead in the water within a year. So,
there you go. Hey, John, I'm just going to interrupt you real.
Yeah.
Because we're actually over time. So
okay.
I mean, I'm willing to hang on, but I also want to give people the freedom to go if they need to go. But maybe what we can do is send out your 11, and then if you want to hang on, if anyone wants to stay, that's fine too. I just wanted to give people the freedom to go. I know we got kids and stuff to deal with. Are you guys good to stay a minute, or do you want to? Yeah, okay. Okay,
I
John,
actually
keep
have to
going.
hop off, but thank you so much, everybody. This was really wonderful. I really appreciate your time, John. It was great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
Thank you.
So keep going, John, then. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So number 4, gut, trust it. Trust your gut over your brain. Make strategic alliances. We talked about that. Price right. Price your product or service correctly from day one. You need a minimum of 5 times your cost to retail ratio. That allows for wholesaling, product discounting, and marketing dollars. Packaging and branding. Don't be shy when spending dollars here. It's who you are. People buy with the eye. That'll never change. Have that look. Give the product or service the best opportunity to succeed. Look for the feel right down to the logo is so important. Improvement. Always look to improve. If you've got a widget, the widget is great. Get it to market and always look for improvements. Bic had a regular side lighter. They went up with the mini lighters. Boom, they wiped out the competition just based on that in the lighter business. Web design and social media. Don't spend a fortune here. Make sure you get in bed with an IT company that allows you to go in and change content. Because, IT companies, some of them,
control.
yeah, some IT companies won't allow you to do the content and they control everything and you're
Elizabeth
paying.
says, don't get your teen to do it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of people I've had who say, oh, you know what? My 14-year-old knows how to use Instagram. And I'm like, really? Do they know how to put together a communication calendar to strategically position you with the wording within your industry?
You're right on. You're right on again.
Yeah, they'll take care of it. I'm like, good luck to you.
In bold, it says, do not hire your friend's nephew.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Everybody today believes that there are web designers and social media gurus. It's not a fact. They're not. And just like everybody thinks they're a business person, they're not. Everybody's kind of a salesman and a business person in a way, but some people just aren't cut out for it. And it's not right, wrong, or indifferent. They might be finding the cure to cancer,
Yeah.
Don't play both sides of the street. Very important. So when you get things going, I won't go on Amazon with my product because I'd be undercutting the network that I built up. It'd be a greedy play. I could get away with it. But once again, it boils down to integrity. And my last point, number 11, don't always take the advice of so-called experts.
That seems an ironic statement right now, John.
I will never deem myself as an expert, Elizabeth. I won't. I refuse to. Because
my friend, you only need to know 5% than everybody sitting in the room with you. That's all you need to be an expert. I swear to you.
Yeah.
So you are, compared to where we are. I don't put you on a pedestal by any stretch.
No. But there's people that are,
Here's what I'll tell you.
They've done more, but the thing is, I'm not putting myself down. I'm just saying when someone deems himself, like if someone says I'm an expert, that's a red flag for me because they might be an expert on yesterday's news cycle.
You are profoundly proficient. How's that?
Yeah. You don't want to stop learning.
Experts, that means dollar signs. That means they're an authority in some areas. And we won't even talk about what's going on now with COVID and the so-called experts, but that's for another Jeb talk.
It's for a non-recorded call.
Yeah.
So I know there's so many of us on the call who would love to keep talking to you, John. So we'll just have to get you back again in the new year. But I think most of all, I don't know what all of you are taking away from this, but I mean, for myself, I think just that persistence, that sticking with it, that, keep going because success is sort of right around the corner, even though it feels like it's miles away. So.
And the thing is, I can't tell you, even in meeting you, will your product succeed? Like people have come to me, do you like this idea? Hey, I in the 70s, I thought that self-storage was a losing proposition. I had a chance to get in big time with a guy that was rolling out self-storage. I did not see it. So,
yourself.
So, I missed that opportunity, didn't I? And others too. So I never put myself in a position to say that won't work.
Yeah.
On any product.
Well, we don't want to let you go, John. We want to go have drinks now, but I do need to wrap up the event.
Yes.
So if it was a live event, I'd be like, let's continue at the pub down the street. But
Depends on where you
but-
live right now.
Yes, it's true. Thank you for being here, and thank you all for joining in. I hope you found value from today. John, can we share your contact information? Are you
Yeah,
cool if I put that in the chat? All
sure.
right. I will drop it in the chat, Simi, before you save the chat and share it with everyone, okay? Thanks for being here. Have a good night. Elizabeth, you can go cook dinner. Chris, I don't know what's up with you, but you better go get some real food. And Jen, thanks for being here on your holiday. Paula, glad you were here. Zara, nice to see you again. Simi, thanks for hosting us. And John, have a great night.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Pleasure meeting
everybody.
you all.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Simi,
Thanks.
don't